before getting in the video. I feel like I always do a disclaimer, but bear with me. Someone is cleaning. I'm not sure if it's below us, beside us, or above us. You might hear a vacuum and some banging. I'm sorry about that, but there's nothing I can do about it. I do live in an apartment building and noise is inevitable. Also, if you guys see me looking down, I will be reading my questions that you guys sent in. So without further ado, let's get into the minimalist Q&A. How to stop buying cosmetics and stick with the essentials that work for you. The best thing you can do is to stop following trends, stop following people that are always doing reviews on new products, because that's what's going to make you want to purchase products that you don't need, especially when it comes to skincare, hair care, and makeup. I will say so myself, I love skincare products, I love hair care products, not much makeup. I do not own any makeup these days, but skincare and hair care are my vice, and it is hard. So I totally understand when it comes to trying to stick with the essentials. But another thing that helps me is to keep my budget in mind. So whatever you bring in the house, are you going to use this up, or is it going to be like a waste of money? Are you going to end up giving it away because you didn't look into the product and it gave you a reaction? So those are some main tips. Another tip that I can give you guys is to go through all of your cosmetic items, hair care, skincare items, and create a basic routine out of all those items. That way, whatever you don't use, you can kind of realize what you wasted your money on, kind of like have a mental note of like, all right, this is not what I'm going to spend my money on anymore. I'm going to put my money to savings or spend it on a bill or put it towards debt. If you have student loan, credit card debt, if you have a decent routine as it is, like a decent hair care routine, makeup routine, skincare routine, if all those products are working for you, then don't fix something that's not broken. So I know that was like a bunch of answers in one, but I think the biggest thing is delete the apps that make you want to spend money, unfollow the influencers that keep reviewing new products that you don't really need right now, and number 3, go through your stuff. Go through all of the little items you own when it comes to cosmetic, skincare, hair care, and stick with your main essentials within your pile that you own. Tips on fighting temptation to buy stuff you actually don't need. So, like I just said, the biggest tip is to unfollow influencers or unfollow celebrities that make you want to spend money you do not have. My biggest temptation is sweets. So, as much as I love to cook and bake, I try my best not to follow any type of dessert bakers right now. I used to follow a lot of vegan like bakers and make my own little sweets. If you guys have been on my channel for a while, you know that I used to make like Sweet Saturday, Savory Saturday, and I took a huge break from that because your girl got a sweet tooth. I have gained over 60 pounds in the past 3 years due to my sweet addiction, and that's one of my biggest temptations. I will say it's not an easy fix, but also to keep in mind is your finances. That's another way to break temptation. So I took in consideration with my finances and also my health. So I know that's like not probably the answer you guys wanted to hear, but that's like the biggest tip I have is delete the apps, unfollow, like I just said before. Also be careful with who you hang out with. If you're hanging out with someone that has a shopping addiction and you also have a shopping addiction, maybe take a break with hanging out with that person, because if they're gonna tempt you into purchasing things you don't need and you're trying to get out of that habit, maybe you guys shouldn't be hanging out right now until you get a grip on your temptations. Do you think you'll always be a minimalist in the future when income is higher? I think a few things will change when my income is higher. I do plan like on purchasing higher quality clothing items. I also plan on, like, how do I say this? If I was to make a lot more money, I would definitely get like my tattoos removed. It's another thing I would like to get done. So it's not like I'm going to be adding a bunch of stuff in the house. It's not like I'm going to like quit being a minimalist, because this is a lifestyle that's literally changed my life, and every time I purchase something till this day, I'm like, do I need it? Do I not? And most of it's not due to my budget. It's due to my mindset now. So I know a lot of you guys think that I'm a minimalist due to me not making a lot of money, but that's not the case. When I became a minimalist, I wasn't making a lot of money, but around 2018, 2019, I was making a decent amount of money with doing YouTube and a regular job. And I was still a minimalist. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's still mistakes I'm going to make, whether I make a decent amount of money or when I make not so decent amount of money. There's still going to be mistakes, but the one thing that will never change is how much I have learned with living and adapting a minimalist lifestyle. It is truly a game changer when it comes to knowing the things that you can live without and knowing that what you bring in the house, is it something that's going to serve a purpose, or is it just going to be decluttered within a month or two? So I will always thank this lifestyle for literally changing my entire life, whether I make a lot of money or not. Of course, like I said, there's some things that, when my income is higher, there's some things that I will do differently. Like I will have a new wardrobe with higher quality clothing items. Not a lot, but a decent amount of pieces where I have enough to go out for dinner with family members or an event. Just have certain outfits for certain events and get-togethers because I am older now and I'm getting older too. So I want to dress a little bit better, and overall I want to look put together. Who doesn't want to look their best? So I do think the one thing that will change is my closet when it comes to my style, but overall it's not like my house will be filled with a bunch of things. It's not like that, because like I said, I learned a valuable lesson with the minimalist lifestyle. What's your ideal house/property? So my ideal house would probably be 3 or 4 bedrooms. The reason why I say 3 or 4, I know it might seem like too much and maybe I'm sounding greedy. Again, this is just ideal, maybe a dream house, but I say 3 or 4 bedrooms because we do plan on having 2 kids. So if we have 4 bedrooms, 1 bedroom can be my partner's office. I personally do not need an office to do this job. I can work at the table, I can work at the library. I've been going to the library and editing there, which works wonderful. It gets me out the house. So my partner is better with having an office at home instead of me. So he can have an office, the kids can have their own bedroom, and then we can have our bedroom. I will say it doesn't make enough room for like a guest room, but I feel like asking for a 5-bedroom house is just too much. I personally have never been in a house that has more than 3 bedrooms. I didn't grow up in houses, to be honest with you guys. I grew up in apartments. So I'm skeptical. Like with my ideal property, like my partner and I, we talk about it all the time. Do we need 4 bedrooms? Do we need 3? We can definitely deal with 3. 2 would be too small because, like I said, he definitely needs an office. He has a lot of gear and his job just requires a lot of other things. So I think having his own office would be great. And also having a fixed basement where we can rent that out and it can help us pay half the mortgage. So 4 bedrooms, a fixed basement, and then of course a yard. Not a large yard because you do have to take care of it. Just a decent yard, not too big. No pool. I'm not a fan of pools. I feel like it's a waste of money, especially when you live in Massachusetts. You're only going to swim in it for less than 3 months. I will not have a house with a pool. And if we do end up getting a house with a pool, we will try every and anything to get that pool out of the yard because it's just a waste of space. But yeah, that's kind of like my ideal house. Also, another thing is windows. I want windows everywhere. So I've learned a valuable lesson with living in this apartment because we don't really have windows. I always record in the same spot because of the lack of windows in this apartment. So this is where it has the best lighting. And then after like 3:30, the lighting is done because it gets dark faster. So yeah, I would love to have giant windows, as many windows as possible. I would say like really like tall windows. What I'm trying to say here is like the property that I dream of my ideal property, it doesn't really exist I mean, all right, it does exist, but it doesn't exist within our budget. So this is just like a dream idea. I hope I didn't sound too greedy with saying all of that. I feel like even if I say 2 bedrooms, I feel like it's too much. because I grew up with one bedroom my whole life that I shared with both of my sisters. We shared a tiny, tiny bedroom. And yeah, it's weird to even think of like how our future kids probably will have their own space. So again, you want to do better for your kids. So that's mostly what I'm thinking of, is a nice environment, a cozy, healthy environment for the kids to grow up in. How do you stop buying clothes that you don't need just because they're in style? Best way that you can stop buying clothes is figure out your own style. So what's in style might not be your style. So go with what you like. Even if it's considered out of style, it's in style for you. So try your best not to care what others think. I personally like that minimal, elegant, old money look. I feel like that look will never go out of style. But then again, if you talk about this look with younger crowds, they'll say it's for old people, which I don't care, because again, this is what I like, this is what I prefer, this is what I feel like will look best on my body type. And again, go with what you like. So that's the number one way that you will stop spending your hard-earned money on clothes that you don't really need or things that are in style. Just go with what you like. I've spent so much money on, I've been through so many stages with clothes. I've had my goth stage, I've had my hip hop stage. I used to wear like the big gold hoops. I used to have shirts that said like my milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, like very explicit shirts that I used to wear. Just a lot of stages that I went through. You know, with being this age, I like a more loose fitting, like these little sweaters here, like a loose fitting, a higher neck where it doesn't show too much cleavage. Again, things do change over time. So 21-year-old Kira would look at 32-year-old Kira and be like, you are dressed like a grandma. But in reality, I kind of like the grandma look and I really don't give a crap what people think. So that's the number one thing. Go with what you like. Who the heck cares what other people are wearing? Who cares what they like? Life is too short to wear what everybody else is wearing. How to handle your partner bringing home stuff you don't need. So this is a tough one because, like I just said, you want people to live their own life and do their own thing. Especially when we get to our adult years, you're like, as much as I love my partner and as much as he loves me, I'm not his mother. He's not my father. When it comes to purchasing things and bringing them home, like, he never tells me, why'd you buy that? We don't need that. And I never tell him, why did you buy that? Because at the end of the day, people are going to do what they want to do, especially when they're adults. If it's an item that has caused your savings account to go low, like if you guys have the same savings account or something, if it's causing an issue with their spending with your bills, like say your bills aren't being paid because that person's constantly spending money on things that they don't need, then that's when you guys need to go to like couples therapy. There's so many therapists that can help you. I would say the two main things to a relationship, the two key main things is communication and talking also about your finances. It all depends. If your partner is coming home with a bunch of things constantly, then maybe it's time to have a very serious talk. But if it's once in a great while, like, and if it's things that they need, like my partner, he purchases camera stuff, lenses, most of the things that he purchases is for his job, and same for me. So we never like control each other like that. There's no need to control each other, again, unless you feel like the bills aren't being paid and you're struggling. Then you guys have to have a serious conversation about what is coming into the house and perhaps maybe selling more than half of the stuff that your partner brought in. Again, either try to get help from a professional, or if you can talk to each other without getting into a heated argument over this, then do so. Because, like I said, communication is key, especially when it comes to finances. If you had to become a minimalist all over again, what would you do different this time around versus when you first started? So the only thing that I would do different is I wouldn't listen to all of the decluttering tips. To be honest with you guys, there are so many decluttering tips, and also there are so many rules. Like I remember watching one video back in like 2016. One girl was like, oh, minimalists do not have more than 2 lipsticks. And I was like, oh, okay, let me get rid of these. Like, that's what I would do differently, because minimalism looks different on everybody. That's what I've learned throughout the years. My minimalist lifestyle might look completely different than your minimalist lifestyle, because what I find might have value to me, like for an example, say this headboard. I've had it literally for almost 7 years now. This headboard, I like it, it's staying. In reality, I don't like it, but example, I like it, it's staying, it has, it has a purpose, it has value, so we're gonna keep it here. And there have been times where people comment saying, you're not much of a minimalist, minimalists don't have headboards and they don't have bed frames. You should just have your mattress on the floor. That might be good for you, but for me, I like my mattress up. I don't want my mattress on the floor. Like, I dealt with my mattress on the floor when it was hard times back when I lived with my mom and we didn't have money for a headboard and a bed frame. We had to just deal with a futon on the floor. I like this setup. And some people might not see it as like, oh, this is not very minimalist. So what I'm trying to get at here is try not to go by what others are saying, because that's the one thing that I did wrong. I was going by what others owned, what others had, how much of the things that they had. I was just like, all right, there's a lot of rules to this. Let me get rid of this. Okay. And then like a year later, I'm like, I really need to rebuy that item because I liked that item and I was using it a lot. That's the biggest thing that I would redo, is not listen to everybody's rules, because in reality, there's no rules for living a minimalist lifestyle. Again, minimalism looks different for everybody, because what I find that has value might not be the same things that you find that has value, if that makes any sense. How to find the balance between being cheap or smart about saving and minimizing the purchases. What comes in mind to me is quality over quantity. I'll be honest with you guys, I haven't shopped for like cheap items in a long time. Don't get me wrong, there's some items that we own that are cheap, but my partner and I, we have come to the realization that sometimes you need to spend good money in order to get good quality. So in order to find the balance with all that is do your research. I do not purchase things right away. I always wait at least a month or even a year when it comes to like expensive items. And that's why my closet doesn't have new clothes or anything right now. One, I'm not ready financially to make a move like that. Two, I'm on a weight loss journey. And three, I don't know what brands that I want to shop at yet. Do I want to shop at H&M because they are affordable? Or do I want to go somewhere else because the quality might be better and they might last a lot longer and their shape might last longer, the color, all that stuff might last longer. So even though a shirt at H&M might be $20 versus a shirt at another place that is $100 or $200, that $200 shirt, yes, it's expensive, but maybe, just maybe, it might last a lot longer than the H&M one. I'll never know until I do my own research. So that's where you find balance, is doing your research. Do not jump the gun on, oh, I'm going to purchase this because it's cheap. I have purchased so many things that just because they were cheap and they broke. And I've also purchased things that were expensive and they broke. And the number one thing, what it came down to was I didn't do my research. That's the most important thing. That's how to find balance, is doing your research. And the last thing is going paperless. How do you keep track of your bills? So I have made numerous videos on this, and the way I keep track of my bills now is very different than how I did it before. You can print out bill trackers. There's so many free bill trackers online, and I used to do that. But nowadays, I do keep everything on my phone, and it's very easy for me now, more than when I lived alone, because my partner and I work together. So when it comes to my main bills, it's usually my credit card and like the rent and the electricity, and then my partner takes care of the other stuff. So that stuff is all digitalized. Like the electric bill, I have an app for it, which is great. So that's what's been working for me when it comes to going paperless. So I do not get any bills in the mail. I think the only bill that I'll ever get in the mail is usually like a toll, and that's if I leave the city and go visit my family, I'll have to like pay the toll. If I take the Mass Pike, if I avoid it, then I don't pay the toll. So that's the only bill we get in the mail. And when it comes to rent, I know that it's due on the 1st of every month, so I'll just write the rent check out and I'll put the rent check in the, there's like a mailbox in the hallway where everybody puts the rent check in, and that's it. So that's how I keep track of everything. So I want to say around the middle of the month, I start writing everything out. So I'll put like electric bill, all right, $600, rent, $2,000. I'm just doing examples, you guys. Credit card bill, $600, and I'll tally all of that up, put that money in check-in, pay those bills, and then when I get my check from YouTube and Amazon, I will replenish my savings with whatever's left over. I hope I'm making sense. My partner has a whole different way of doing his bills. His bills are a lot different than mine, but we both pay our bills on time. We just have a different way of doing it. And I will say I like my way. It's very simple, less complicated. If I was to add more bills to my list, so technically it's only like 3 bills right now to keep track of. If I was to add any more when we move, I will definitely get like a notebook and just start writing things down when they're due, just old-fashioned, or you could put it on your laptop with like the sticky note app. So that's kind of how I go paperless. I still use paper to do math and stuff because I am old school, but I will say most of my bills are, like, I don't get them in the mail, I get them through the app. So once when I get a bill, it's through the app and I just pay it. Anyways, you guys, I can't thank you enough for sending me these questions in. I try to make this video shorter because I know you guys like shorter videos. So if you guys would like a part 2 of the minimalist Q&A, you can leave those questions down below, or you can leave questions in my inbox on Instagram if you don't want anybody to see what you asked. If you want it to be anonymous, you can do that as well. I'll leave the link to my Instagram in the description box. So on that note, I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you in the next video.